Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome to Let's Start Story on What If Naruto Had God of Immortal and Harem Part 1. So do 4 blue hearts comment, be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video and please share with your friends and watch till end. Also check out Patreon for I have upload Naruto x Rias and Akino uncensored spicy version, link in description. They say warriors of legends were merely a construct of fiction. In fiction, these warriors had surpassed the limits of any other humans and ascended to a power that even rivals a god. Riors that even had the power to bend the powerful elements to their will, changing it to a weapon of their choosing. Whether these weapons were meant to create, destroy or heal depends on the user. But without a doubt, they were powerful. Their legends were told for generations upon generations. These legends that told of their feats, achievements, failures, struggles, betrayal, and demise. But they were only that. Legends were only legends and nothing else. No one truly knows about their true story, but one thing is for certain, the legends of their demise were false. These warriors were basically immortal. They do not age nor do they rest. They can only be sealed. For centuries, they lay and wait for the seal to be weakened. They waited and waited until the first warrior fell into a deep slumber. Another century had passed and the second warrior had also fallen into a deep sleep, followed by the third. After a millennium, the seal had weakened due to a massive clash of power by a war between unknown entities. The seal that guarded the tomb of the first warrior was shattered and he was finally free to roam the earth again. If he was awake, that is. Present time. In various places throughout the country of Japan, 3 ancient tombs were faintly glowing. The first tomb, which bears the crest of a maelstrom, was illuminated by an azure blue flame. The flame, harmless at first, began to grow larger and larger until its fire was spreading everywhere until it suddenly vanished. The tomb now began to show multitude cracks much like that of a spider web until the entire area was suddenly enveloped by a heavy, dense pressure of energy. This massive power was felt by every spiritually aware being in various dimensions. The tomb was broken, he had now awakened, and he was finally released. Somewhere. Park. He was in all due respect, lost. He who had defeated gods alongside his brothers was lost. Unbelievable. One of the 3 sacred warriors, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, was fucking lost. To make things worse, he was also naked. He had no idea where he was, or how he even got here. He remembered waking up from that godforsaken place and used his powers to go back to his home. But the place where he used to call home was now a place with a lot of sand. The sand was inside something that had 4 sides to it, a square to be exact. He had no idea why someone would put sand in this square-like thing, but he paid it no mind since he was curious about the other contraptions here. He was about to sit on something that looked like an animal that had a metallic coil sticking out of its feet until he was surrounded by humans with blackened wings. One of the man with the black wings looked like he was talking to him, but he didn't understand what they were saying. He was about to leave them when something soft poked him. It appears that the man had poked him with a spear that seemed to be made of light. The spear of light didn't hurt, but it irked him that someone dared try to do that to him. Especially when the place the strange human poked was dangerously close to his ass. Fallen angel paw. In all honesty, he had no idea why he was following them. Moments ago, every angel, devil and fallen angel felt an enormous energy originating from Mt. Fuji, only for said power to suddenly be at the park. While the leaders of the fallen angels were in the war room, his brilliant friends decided to drag him into their foolish game. The game was simple but dangerous. Capture the source of the power and take it back to Grigori. Little did he know that it was the final game he will ever play. When they arrived at the park, he was stunned. No, stupefied was the correct word. What he imagined originally was someone with an intimidating figure, but acing that image was someone who was fucking naked like the day he was born. What the hell is he doing anyway? He thought his friends were pulling his legs until he confronted the man and said, "Oi, Ninjin, what are you doing here?" He questioned the naked man. The human remained oblivious to what he was saying and chose to remain silent. Angered because he was ignored by a human of all beings, he decided to end the pathetic human before him. When the human turned his back to him, he conjured a spear made of light and threw it at the Weak. Human, only for it to bounce harmlessly off his skin. Normal POV. In a matter of minutes. The park was filled with spears that was made of light. The fallen angels in a futile effort tried to pierce the human before them with their spears but ultimately failed. They concluded that the wall of air that surrounded the man was impenetrable and tried to fly away to safety, only for them to fall face first on the pavement of the park. The human was releasing his power into the air. They couldn't move, much less breath, in the presence of the man. The man suddenly appeared behind one of the fallen angels and held her by the neck. He placed his hand over her head and literally yanked the soul from her body, gaining information and killing her in the process. So you guys are fallen angels, huh? So since you're not human, I guess it won't be a problem. If I kill you, said the man with a dangerous voice. The fallen angels, hearing the tone of his voice, attempted to flee but were quickly grounded again by the pressure of wind that had descended upon them. They could only watch in horror as the man's energy spiked to that of an ultimate class devil. You who obey my every command and will, the man said. He suddenly donned the armor befitting that of a warrior and continued. Pierce everything before me. Kaladbolg. This era, it is very interesting, and complex, pondered Naruto as he was busy inspecting the TV. He was wearing a dark black, tight t-shirt with long sleeves that has a blue flame pattern coming up from the hem of the shirt as well as a black-blue jacket. He was also wearing a necklace made out of a special, crystal gem. Necklace was one of the things that he treasured deeply, reminding him of the special bond he had with his brothers. To seal the deal, he also wore black skinny jeans with black socks and matching trainers. Where did he even got his clothes, you might ask? Well, using his powers, the Banbutsu Sozo creation of all things, he copied the design from a fashion advertisement he saw since he was basically naked and in need of clothes. This TV, or so they call it as he viewed it from an electronics shop, managed to pique his interest. After he had, accidentally, broken a few of them due to pure shock. He finally had a chance to observe one that doesn't have a hole in it courtesy of his fist. He checked the watch that he had borrowed from a shop since he couldn't create it due to the fact he didn't know how it even worked. It was now about 9 p.m. Just 4 hours had passed since he was reawakened. After he had dealt with those troublesome fallen angels, he had used his powers to read their minds to know more about what had happened to the world. And in turn, killing them in the process. Apparently, after the sealing of him and his brothers, humanity no longer relied on the use of magic or the elementals. And instead they relied on their wits and brains to survive. With their actions, they shaped the world to what it is today. But something had greatly bothered him when he tried to connect to the world's core. Instead of the peaceful energy he always felt, the core felt tainted and rotten. There was something there, corrupting it. He had half a mind to just go there himself and smite the thing that was responsible for it. But to do that, he had to wait for the awakening of his other brothers to even reach there. In the end, he decided to just enjoy the night sky at his home, which was now turned into a sandbox. Sandbox or not, it was still his home. He could always sleep in the trees, but he wanted to see the stars, so he settled in for a bench near his house. It was peaceful until he had sensed a presence a couple of kilometers away. 6 energy signatures to be exact. He contemplated whether or not he should go there or not, but since he was bored, what could possibly go wrong? Well, if they appear to be hostile, the energy signature they're emitting doesn't seem very high, he thought. If he was honest, they felt downright weak. Out of all the 6 signatures he felt, only one stood out. But it wasn't anything special. Just somewhat higher than the rest of them. But if somehow things went south for him, he shouldn't have any problems dealing with all of them. Occult Research Club, Expedition. BB Bucho, save me, cried out a boy with brown hair as he avoided being smashed by a giant axe wielded by a mant-bull hybrid. The boy is shown to be wearing the Kuo Academy boys' school uniform, which consists of a blazer, more commonly black, over a white, long-sleeved dress shirt with black highlights with a black ribbon on the collar, matching black pants, and brown dress shoes. However, his uniform differs in the fact that he wears a red t-shirt underneath his open dress shirt and blazer, and wears blue and white sneakers in place of dress shoes. No Issei. If you want to be strong enough to be a high-class devil, you should at least be strong enough to handle a stray devil of this caliber, said a red-haired woman. Rias is a young woman who appears to be in her late teens with light skin, blue-green eyes and a buxom figure. Her most distinctive feature is her long, crimson-red hair that reaches down to her thighs, with a single hair strand sticking out from the top. Her hair also has loose bangs covering her forehead and side bangs framing her face. She was currently training her pawn, Issei, to fight efficiently if he wanted to be a high-class devil. A few hours ago, she along with the rest of her peerage was on their knees struggling to breath. All of them felt it. They were all in this state because of the vast amount of energy had suddenly appeared out of nowhere. She had no idea where, or who was emitting this energy, but she was grateful that it had subsided, for now. Following this was the emergence of various stray devils that had came out of hiding. Their numbers were staggering. She had some idea to what had caused them to show themselves but decided to keep it to herself. They must have been attracted to that unknown source of power, stated Kiba. Powerful, replied Kaneko shakingly. The amount of power that was just released was enough to scare her. Being a half-nekosho, she was the most sensitive one compared to the rest of the other members. Well, whatever the thing that released it is gone for now. We need to take care of all the stray devils that had suddenly appeared. Akeno, you try and contact Sona and inform her of the situation, commanded Rias. But instead of an answer from her queen, she was only replied with silence. Akeno, Rias asked hesitantly and turned around to face her queen. What they saw was a very odd situation. Akeno was sitting on the floor with her knees pushed together slightly and trembling. It took roughly a minute to figure out what was happening to her queen. But when it finally dawned on Rias to what her queen was experiencing, she said, "Come on everyone. It's best not to disturb her when she's like this. Let's just leave her to sort it out. I'll summon her to meet up with us when she's done with her problems." "But Bucho, what's wrong with?" questioned Issei, but before he could finish his question he was interrupted by Rias. "It's best you don't know, Issei. Everyone has their own problems," she said, while glancing at her queen and best friend. After they all left, Akeno was still sitting there, trembling with a heavy blush on her face. "Present time. That was cruel, Bucho," cried Issei with tears in his eyes. "I know it was somewhat harsh for you, Issei, but out of all the members of my peerage, you're the only one with the least battle experience. So you need to train up or you'll never be a high-class devil," Rias stated in a matter-of-fact tone. Seeing a dejected look on his face, she added, "Or achieve your goal of being a harem king. Now that, managed to lift his spirits up. Hi Bucho, I'll be the strongest devil the underworld will ever seen," he said with fire in his eyes, accompanied by perverted giggling. To be honest, even he didn't want to endanger one of her peerage members, but since Akeno was still in a state where she deemed her not fit for fighting, she had no choice. Right now they were on their way to the final destination. An abandoned warehouse where there was a lot of energy signatures. She could sense 4 or 5 energy signatures. The numbers didn't worry her, but she could sense a middle-class devil signature there. That one is going to be a problem, but nothing she couldn't handle. They were about to enter the warehouse until something stopped them. No, to be more accurate, they couldn't even move, much less breath. The massive amount of power had came back with full force, stronger than ever, and it was suffocating them. Little did they know that they were about to enter a lion's den. "Move," commanded Naruto with a dangerous voice. "Not until you tell us what you are," retorted Rias to the unknown stranger before her, struggling to stand up. She was playing a dangerous game and she knew it. The man before her was powerful, very powerful. The chances of him killing her as well as her peerage was very high. The fight they just had with him proved it. No, calling it a fight would be unjust. It was a one-sided slaughter. He was fast. Not even Kiba could touch him. He tanked her power of destruction like they were nothing more than mere pebbles, knocked out Issei and severely outclassed Kaneko in hand-to-hand combat. "I am a human. Now move," answered Naruto as he twirled his weapon, Kaladbolg, and leaned it on his shoulder. If it was possible, he didn't want to kill the group in front of him. They didn't pose a threat to him, so killing them would be a waste. They had potential, but lack experience. In a few more years they would be powerful, but at their current level, it wasn't enough to even scratch him. Even if the redhead did have that power, she couldn't control it. He only wanted to go to his home and relax. But if they still insists on getting in his way, he might have to consider breaking a few of their bones or two. Even when he had answered her question, she refused to budge. What's wrong with her anyway? Thought Naruto curiously. This was not the time and place to be chatting. He preferred an environment that was more clean, and not destroyed. Move, or else I'll make you, threatened Naruto as he tightened his grip on his weapon. He was getting impatient with the girl before him. How did it even come to this, thought Rias as the man in front of her was drawing closer. His power levels were rising again. She couldn't handle the pressure he was emitting and passed out due to fatigue. The last thing she heard was some sort of metal clanking as he drew near. A few moments ago, Naruto's POV. Pathetic. No, these guys were beyond pathetic. For all of their boasting, they didn't put up much of a fight. Not even the one that had the most energy out of them proved to be a challenge. The fight between him and these so-called devils wasn't that exciting. After he had enough of hearing them spouting nonsense, he decided to just end them and leave. Using his mastery over the wind element, he commanded it to do his bidding. It only took him a moment to butcher all of them. Strangely enough, after he killed them, some sort of red objects were left behind from their corpse. He didn't know what they were, so he took one and crushed it. ASMA. LL burst of energy had escaped from the thing, but nothing else happened. Interesting, he thought. He was about to leave with the rest of those things in hand until something had almost struck him. Something that he knew all too well. Because of it, they were shunned. Because of it, they were betrayed. Because of it, she was gone. The one they all hold dear. The power that him, as well as the other warriors, had failed to seal. The accursed power of destruction. With a swift movement, he quickly appeared behind his attacker, and held her by the neck. Attempting to interrogate her using one of his special abilities. Angered by the thought that the powers they had sealed was in the girl's possession. But his thoughts were interrupted when he had to avoid a sword aimed for his neck. The sword was wielded by a boy with short blonde hair, gray eyes and a mole under his left eye. The boy continued to try and slash him, but it proved futile as he avoided every swing. He could have ended their fig. The instant the boy entered his kill range, but thought against it. Even though he was slightly angered by the girl, he had to admit the boy's skill with the sword was good. Back in his era, nobody had dared challenge them because of the skills and powers they possess. But to think that the boy in front of him had the balls to point his sword at him. That just earned his respect, if only slightly. The boy tried to aim for his neck again, but he stopped it with one of his finger, before destroying it into a million pieces. You're fast, boy, and your skills with the sword are praiseworthy, but not enough. Show me more, he taunted. The boy conjured another sword out of thin air and their battle continued. It wasn't much of a battle in his mind since he was just avoiding the boy's slashes, but it was amusing to him. This continued for a while until the fight was joined by a small girl with white hair and hazel eyes. At first glance, he thought of ignoring her, but quickly changed his mind when he caught one of her punches with the palm of his hand. The amount of force behind her punches was enough to shock him for a few seconds. He lifted her up, bringing her to his eye level before he merely tossed her aside gently. The boy suddenly appeared behind him, but before he could do anything, Naruto grabbed him by the head, kneed him in the stomach with as much force as he could without killing him, and threw the boy at an empty crate at the end of the warehouse, effectively knocking him out. Kaneko, get away from him, commanded Rias as she compressed a large amount of demonic energy and her power of destruction. I'm going to take him out in one shot. Kaneko, who was surprised with the amount of care he tossed her, could only nod dumbly at her king's order. Are you sure you want to do that? Said Naruto as he suddenly appeared in front of her. Wah! Cried out Rias as she unintentionally released her power at point-blank range at his chest. Because of the large amount of power that was released by her, vast amounts of dust and debris were kicked up, limiting her field of vision as well as the man she was fighting. There, said Rias, as she was breathing heavily, nothing could survive that blast. Suddenly, Rias as well as her other peerage members were forced to their knees by an invisible pressure. It was the same energy, and they had just discovered the source. You will obey my every command and will. A voice was heard. The dust and debris were suddenly converging at one spot. Pierce everything before me. The invisible pressure was now suffocating them, depriving their lungs of oxygen. Kaladbolg. And with that single sentence, a ring of explosions radiated from the source of the power in 3 waves. A hand suddenly emerged out of the dust and debris. And with a swift movement swiped to the side, clearing it from the air that was obscuring their vision. They could finally see the visage of the man before them. His appearance had now changed. The colors of his eyes had changed from blue to red with slit-like pupils. He was wearing some sort of armor which gives the resemblance of a hunter. He now wielded a blue lance with intricate designs on them. If you guys don't know how to visualize his armor, search up Lancer from Fate prototype, not the one with the blue full body tights and the lance his wielding has the same appearance as Guy Bold but its color is blue. It appears that your powers are the same as hers but not as powerful. If that is the full extent of it, then there is nothing for me to worry about, said Naruto. He was about to leave when someone with short brown hair and light brown eyes lunged at him. He avoided it and slammed the kid with the blunt edge of Kaladbold, followed by a kick to the face that sent him skidding across the ground. Even though he did that, the kid refused to back down and kept coming back at him, again and again. He decided that he had enough and pierced the kid's left leg with his lance, immobilizing him. Even though the kid's screams echoed in the air, it slowly died out as the kid was knocked unconscious. He didn't flinch nor did he showed any signs of regret. He no ced the white-haired girl was running towards him but quickly binded her with a flick of his wrist. From out of nowhere, chains with a blue ethereal glow constricted Kaniko's movements, rooting her to the ground and quickly draining her energy until she passed out. Now there was only one more person, and she was blocking his way to leave. Present time. Weeks had passed by and the news of her disappearance was still in the air. The unknown man had taken Rias to a place beyond their knowledge. After their fight with him, Akeno had quickly gone to the warehouse only to find everyone passed out and sporting multiple bruises. She was checking on everyone until she realized her king was not there. She quickly tried to contact Rias via a communication spell but something was blocking it. With Eevee heart she transported everyone back to the Occult Research Club and quickly contacted her brother, Sears X Lucifer, and informed him of the situation. The next day, some people would call it hell on earth. The sky was painted red akin to blood. Thousands upon thousands of devils had descended to earth. Their mission, locate and secure the heir to the Grimoire family unharmed. After he was fed of the situation by his little sister's queen, Sears X had ordered every one of his peerage members as well as all of the devils under his command to find her. Every devil of every rank had obeyed the orders of the Satan Lucifer and quickly marched to earth. Gone was the laid-back attitude of Sears X and in his place was a commander. They checked every nook and cranny they could find but there wasn't any signs of her. The search had gone for weeks and they were still searching. Be it a clue, a hint, or anything that could lead them to Rias, but their attempts at finding her proved to be fruitless. They had some complications while searching for her. The angels, fallen or otherwise, had thought that the devil faction was waging another war but it was soon cleared up by a meeting between the leaders. Sears X had informed them that he was the one mobilizing the devils to search for his little sister who had gone missing and plead to the other factions to not interfere, not under the name of Sears X Grimoire, but as his title, Sears X Lucifer. Azazel, as well as Michael, had agreed to Sears X terms and allowed him to mobilize his battalion of devils under the condition that he does not interfere with any human life or wage war with any other factions. Sears X agreed and quickly continued his search for Rias. Azazel and Michael had offered their help to find his sister but he politely declined with the excuse that the presence of any fallen angels or angels would cause distrusts between them and his army, that will eventually lead to pandemonium. Wherever you are, I hope you're safe. Rias, hopefully, thought Sears X as he continued giving orders to his army. But as he was trying to sense for anything in the area, something caught his attention for a split second. He didn't know who or where, but it was there. The energy that he felt was dangerous and ancient. He contemplated whether he should go investigate it but decided against it. Whatever that thing was, it's gone for now, said Sears X as he moved forward with his battalion. Kuo Academy night. On top of the highest building of Kuo Academy, a lone dark figure was seen standing there. Shrouded by darkness. The only thing that you could make out was the color of his hair, which was white, and his eyes, which were both red with a black sclera. He observed the creatures they called devils with an impassive face. He could sense their energy signatures. Some were high, while some were low, but the one that stood out the most was a man with red hair. There was something about his energy signature that reminded him of her. And he didn't like that. That power was sealed by them and it was meant to be sealed for eternity. He just hoped it was only a coincidence, but if not, then he had to deal with it personally. But before that, he was curious as to why Naruto would do something like this. He did notice that Naruto was hiding something behind his aura when he reawakened him, but he didn't know what it was. Well, whatever. Since you reawakened me, I guess I could help you out, he said impassively and chanted. Those who have passed on shall rise again. The entire region was blanketed by an enormous pressure felt by every spiritual being. Send them back to their graves as I decree. Every devil was on their knees struggling to breath. The only one not affected by it was Searsex, but he was hunching and sweating. Thanatos. The country of Japan was engulfed in complete darkness. As I wake up, I force open my eyes, breaking through what the Sandman has deposited from the night before. Wait, night, thought Rias as she tried to remember about what had transpired yesterday. As far as she'd remembered, she didn't go to sleep last night since she was still wearing her school clothes. She preferred sleeping in the nude. And where am I any? She couldn't finish her sentence as she finally remembered. They had foolishly challenged the man thinking that they could win. The man had brutally defeated them. My peerage, thought Rias frantically as she tried to find the presence of her other friends, but they were nowhere in sight, nor could she sense them. She tried to stand up but her legs for some reason felt like it weighed a ton. As she scanned the cave she was in, her eyes landed on the silhouette of a man. The man that had single-handedly crushed them. Naruto's paw. It had been a day since his fight with those kids. He was leaning on a large rock at the entrance of the cave that he had found. The cave wasn't that comfortable, but at least it was something. He was gazing out at the horizon of the sun when he sensed the energy signature of the girl that he took along with him was rising. If you're thinking about attacking me, then it's useless, said Naruto nonchalantly, as he was still gazing at the beautiful horizon before him. Well, it's not like you could anyway. Where am I? And what did you do to me? Questioned the girl furiously as she tried and failed to stand up. She was panicking. For some reason, she couldn't call out her power. It was there, she could feel it, but it felt like something was blocking it. It is rather arrogant of you to make such demands considering your situation, retorted Naruto as his eyes turned red with slit-like pupils, glaring at his hostage, before it returned to its original color. People these days, sighed Naruto. Well, to answer your question, we're in a cave that I found. As to what I did to you, I made you mine. Wah, was the only word she uttered before she was cut off by Naruto. You're mine now. What part of it did you not understand? What the man said had infuriated her. I am Rias Grimoire, heir to the Grimoire family of the 72 Pillars. I am not someone's personal belonging and ID. Iman that you return me at once, said Rias haughtily. A pregnant silence was in the air for a few minutes. Never in my life did I ever had the urge to smack myself in the head. Unbelievable, though, Naruto as he listened in annoyance at her declaration. Naruto, maintaining his composure, lightly folded his arms with a slight look of annoyance on his face. So just because you are the heir to some noble family, did you honestly expect that I would release you and all of this would be over? Well, it's not like Naruto however quickly cut her off. Since you've introduced yourself, I might as well do the same. I am Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, and right now, your life is in my hands. In fact, in a split second, the boulder that was beside Rias was cut in half, as well as several strands of her red hair. This action merited a look of shock from Rias, while Naruto merely looked at her with a dead gaze. Why don't I kill you right now? Just another heiress, of another noble family. I doubt you'll be remembered for very long. Rias could only look down at the ground dejectedly as she was powerless to stop the man before her. Raise your head. Since you represent me now, I will not allow you to appear weak before your enemies, even if your enemy is myself, said Naruto. Maybe he had been a little too harsh on her. No, even if he did, the girl needed to know her place. She was too arrogant and only relied on her status as an heir to a noble family to assert her dominance, both of which means nothing to him. What good is an heir to a family if they are dead? If she didn't have the power to back up her threat, then against someone like him, she would die a meaningless death. Stand up, we're moving, said Naruto as he turned his back to her and began weaving signs with his hands E4. He stopped as Rias responded to his commands. I'm not coming with you, said Rias while her eyes were shadowed by her hair. What did you say? Asked Naruto as his eyes changed to a red color with slit-like pupils. I'm not coming with you, answered Rias with a hopeless tone. Naruto's energy spiked as he stared at the girl before him as he summoned his weapon Kaladbolg and pointed it at her. You have no choice, he said with a dangerous voice. Few minutes had passed by as Naruto stared at her. The air was tense between the two, as if a single drop of a needle would detonate a bomb. The sky had darkened. A thunder was heard in the background, as the pitter-patter of the rain was heard. Why? Asked Rias as a drop of water landed on the cave floor. Why are you doing this, He continued as another drop of water dripped down her face. Why did you take me? Her voice began to rise as she attempted to stand up. Why? Screamed Rias, tears were now streaming down her face as she slumped her body against the wall, crying. At that time, years upon years of stress that was held by her, was finally released. The responsibility she had to carry as an heir to her family. The responsibility she had to her peerage, her forced engagement to Riser Phoenix, the man that had kidnapped her, everything just exploded as she took out her anger at him. Naruto, stunned to what he had saw, could only stare at her because of her outburst. Deciding that he couldn't watch her any longer, he twirled his weapon Kaladbolg a couple of times before stabbing it into the ground. As a slight shockwave of energy was released, scaring the animals around the area, but it went unnoticed by the girl. He suddenly appeared before her, ready to end it. Rias, who was still sobbing by the ground, could only accept her fate as the man was going to kill her. She knew that it was a stupid idea to defy him, much less scream at him, but she didn't care. She was tired, she was powerless, and last of all, she was weak. The man had hit a nail on the head when he said it. She knew that without her powers, she was nothing. Without her status as an heir, she was nothing. She was only lucky to be born into the Grimoire family. The only thing that she had was her face, but that meant nothing in the underworld. She must have been an eyesore for the man, crying before her enemy. She cried and cried until she noticed that the man was suddenly before her. He was kneeling now, their faces only inches apart. She was about to slap his face until he did something that she hadn't expected a man, much less her enemy, would do. He embraced her. On that day, she cried until the next morning. It's been a week now since he took the girl, Rias as he called her now. Since her outburst at the cave, she hadn't uttered a single word as they went on their journey. She was lifeless if he had to describe her now. Well, in his eyes she was. Even when she was exhausted, hungry, thirsty and more, she didn't complain and followed his orders obediently. It was only through the link between them that he deemed it necessary for her to rest. He had learned that the hard way when she suddenly fainted due to lack of nutrition and illness. Whether she wanted to or not, he had already explained it to her that she is now soul-bound to him thanks to his chains. The chains were his version of the chains of Enkidu. Instead of an indestructible chain that is capable of restraining a demigod and its physical body, it chains part of the user's soul to the victim, establishing an unbreakable link between them. Through it, he could sense every one of her emotions, and her state of mind. When she was tired, he had to find them a place for her to rest while he protected her. When she was hungry, he hunted the food and cooked it for her to eat while he merely watched. When she was thirsty, he had to search far and wide for a source of water for her to drink. When she was ill or injured, he had to concentrate on his powers to heal her, which was not an easy task, even for him. His powers were meant to destroy, not to heal. Right now, he was in a forest, searching for food. He could feel it. She was hungry. He was about to go search elsewhere and tell Moo. He heard it. It was faint, but he heard it. Using his powers, he dashed towards the sound, seeking for his prey with a smile on his face. With Rias. A sigh of relief was heard in the far corners of the cave. The man, Naruto as he called himself, was finally gone. Probably gone to find some food, she thought. It It's been roughly a week now since she had last spoken to anyone. She wouldn't dare talk to him ever since her humiliating outburst. To her surprise, Naruto was actually somewhat nice to her for some reason. Even though she tried her best to ignore him, he simply didn't care or just didn't notice. She remembered the first time he showed concern for her. At that time, they were traveling, she had a high fever and hadn't eaten or drank any water for 2 days. Naruto suddenly disappeared and left her somewhere in a makeshift cabin. She thought that he had left her for dead until he came back with a jug of water, some raw meat, a potato and a chicken. She didn't know how, but he somehow managed to cook chicken soup. Even when she was sick she refused to eat it even though she was drooling at that point. On that day, she was reminded on how dangerous the man before her was. He grabbed her face and forcefully shoved the spoon down her throat. She also learned something about him because he couldn't cook. The soup tasted horrible, but she could see something about him had changed. He was looking at her, like he was expecting something. After some time had passed without her saying anything, he tried to shove the spoon into her mouth again. Let's just say that it was a day that both individuals would try to not remember, especially for Naruto since he now had a bite mark on his hand. A few days had passed since then and she was in a cave, again. With nothing to do, she was about to lie down until a cry of an animal was heard in the deepest corners of the cave, as well as a massive amount of energy. It was familiar, almost like chakra. With Naruto. Cows. Interesting. They do nothing all day except for eating grass. I wonder what was the original purpose of these cows thought Naruto as he positioned his lance to strike them down. The most powerful weapon he had in his arsenal, Kaladbolg, was used to hunt animals of all beings. He could imagine the disapproving looks he would get from his other brothers. The beings known as cows were in his kill range, especially the fat and dumb-looking one. Unlike the other cows, he was eating alone and not in a group. Whenever other cows would try and approach the fat cow, he simply mooed them away. That cow's meat would last them for days if he rationed them well. The cow was getting closer and closer. He gripped his spear. Sweat was covering his forehead now. With a smirk, he threw the spear, aiming for the cow's head. The spear soared through the wind as it was approaching its target. Come on, prayed Naruto as he watched. The spear was inches away from the cow's head, until it missed its intended target and was planted firmly into the ground. The fat cow somehow had sensed the danger and twisted its body, moments away as the spear came flying into its vision. The cow searched the area for its hunter and saw a human in a bush. With a smug look on its face, it continued to eat the grass as it pointed its ass to the human. That fucking cow. With a flick of his wrist, Naruto summoned his weapon, and was prepared to engage the cow in close combat until foreign feelings invaded his mind. He could sense fear and dread. Few minutes had passed as he pondered on why he was feeling that way. Was it the cow? Thought Naruto as he glanced at the fat cow again. He continued observing the cow until he realized something. Those feelings, it wasn't his. He was unable to experience such things. But then what was? He couldn't finish his thought as his eyes widened. Rias. With a simple tug on his powers, he felt the chain connecting them manifesting itself and grabbed it. Through the chain, he could instantly teleport himself to where she is. But when he appeared inside the cave, the only thing he could see was blood. It was everywhere. As he looked further inside, he saw Rias. She was on the ground, a pool of her own blood surrounding her body, as well as bite marks. He could sense that she was still alive, but only barely. He needed to take care of her fast or else she'll die. But the only thing preventing him from doing that, was the white wolf-like beast guarding her body. The wolf-like beast was taller and bigger than him, but the thing that caught his attention was its teeth, that was drenched in blood. A yokai of some sort, thought Naruto as he summoned his weapon, his eyes shifting from blue to red with slit-like pupils. Even if it was a yokai, the beast contained a ridiculous amount of chakra. He didn't know what its origin was. But because it dared to attack something that was his, the beast shall pay with its own blood. Normal paw. The cave was deathly silent as the man and beast stared against each other, waiting for the other to make a move. For a few minutes this continued. until the beast lunged forward, ready to sink its teeth into the man's flesh, but it proved futile as chains with a blue ethereal glow suddenly manifested out of thin air and wrapped itself around the beast, immobilizing it. The beast struggled against the grip of the chains, but every time it did, the chains constricted itself even tighter, suffocating it. It was about to chew through it until a blue lance pierced its stomach. With a howl, the beast cried in agony as it fell to the ground, watching helplessly as the man drew near. Naruto paused. Naruto looked at the beast who had dared attack one of his belongings with an impassive face. He yanked his lance from out of the beast's stomach as it let out a gut-wrenching scream. But it fell on deaf ears as Naruto stabbed the beast again and again. Like Rias, the beast's blood was all over the cave. On the ground, on the cave roof, and on the walls, blood was everywhere as Naruto stabbed the beast without mercy. With every stab, the scream of the beast was heard until it was nothing more than a bloody mess. But it was still alive. Like Rias, it was still alive, but barely. An eye for an eye. As Naruto stabbed the beast for the last time, he spared a glance toward Rias and quickly went to her. Using his power, he concentrated it to heal her. A blue ethereal glow covered his hands as he positioned it on top of her chest as her wounds healed. It was his fault that she was like this anyway. He was too late to stop the beast, but that was because of his carelessness. Maybe he should remove the bindings on her powers after this. Even with her power of destruction, he doubted that she would have killed the beast. While it is true that he dealt with it easily, it was still dangerous to those who do not possess a large amount of energy or someone who is stupid in general. But you're definitely something to withstood the stabbings of my weapon, Kaladbolg. Even if I was not serious, is no small feat, praised Naruto as he glanced at the beast. Countless men have died by just having a scratch of it. But not you. You have a very resilient body. I wonder. Countless chains appeared and wrapped the body of the beast, leaving nothing in sight. From this day on, the chains started glowing intensely as the area was blanketed by an enormous invisible pressure. You're mine. The chain's glow changed from blue to black as it shattered into a million pieces. Now awaken. The beast is now reincarnated. Byakuei. As it serves its new master. 1 week later. Naruto. Where are we going? Asked Rias as she observed her surroundings, which was mostly clouds. We're going to visit an old friend of mine, replied Naruto as he gazed at the passing clouds. Right now they were on their way to the tomb of the second warrior via Byakuei. It was an interesting development really. Who knew Byakuei could fly, much less carry people on him? He didn't. After the sealing, Byakuei had undergone a drastic change. Gone was the wolf-like beast that was in the cave, and in its place was a dragon-like Inagami with chains wrapped around it. That is also flying, floating. Unlike other yokais, Byakuei did not have the ability to speak. At first, he thought that Byakuei was still traumatized by their fight. It was either that or Byakuei was extremely shy, but after a while, it seemed that Byakuei did not possess any memories of its past. His relationship with Rias was improving, but only slightly. She was talking now, but he could sense that she was still afraid of him. Apparently, after his fight with Byakuei, they had to underwent a very awkward situation. Well, for Rias it was. Byakuei's saliva was highly poisonous and she could have died if he hadn't noticed. He literally had to force her to stay down as he tried to suck the poison out of her body. I'll leave that to you imagination. After that incident, Rias looked much more healthier and cheery compared to how she used to. She has also warmed up to Byakuei even though it tried to kill her once. It took a lot of his patience to explain to her that Byakuei is now harmless as long as he ordered it to. He also told her that Byakuei is now her bodyguard when he is away. Yes, he couldn't help but smirk when he thought about that incident. He had left them to scout the area, and some type of creature had attacked them. He quickly appeared before them, ready to strike anything down, until Byakuei had beat him to the punch. Byakuei had consumed the creatures instantly, replenishing its energy as well as protecting Rias. The two had bonded because of the incident. Rias treating Byakuei more of a large pet instead of a bodyguard. Well, whatever works for them I guess, thought Naruto as they were about to enter a place called Mount Hotaka. He could sense a very high and familiar energy signature here. Naruto? Asked Rias as she looked at him. Answered Naruto absent-mindedly. Can I ask you something? What is it? Said Naruto curiously. She rarely questions him ever since he tamed Byakuya. The only thing that came out of her mouth was the, "Where are we going? I'm hungry." Questions and the rare, "Let me go." Demand. "What are you?" asked Rias carefully as she was prepared for anything. It was unwise of her to offend him since he was the reason she was still alive. While it is true that he was the reason she was almost killed, he was also the one who had saved her for some reason. "I already told you, I'm human," replied Naruto casually. "No. What I mean is, what are your true origins, where did you come from?" The instant those words left her mouth the area was blanketed by an enormous pressure. "And why do you need to know that?" Tioned Naruto as his eyes narrowed dangerously. It also turned from blue to red as he glanced at her. No, it's just that I have never met a human as powerful as you," answered Rias as she was struggling to talk. Unlike the first time they met, she no longer faints when she is exposed to his energy. She had no idea why, but it must have something to do with the chains that connects them. With a sigh, Naruto quelled down his energy once again. "You know Rias, do you believe in legends?" asked Naruto. "I do believe in legends, but not entirely," answered Rias. She was a devil, riding a yokai. With a ridiculously powerful human, that somehow had the power to bind his soul to yours. There's not much at this point that would surprise her. Well then, let me tell you this. There once was a legend where it foretold about the feats of 3 powerful warriors. No one knew where they came from, but their powers were unmatched. No one had dared challenge them as they ruled over the land. The ones who did were either very brave or very foolish. Those who they had deemed worthy were asked to join their army, while others were quickly killed because of their stupidity, arrogance and pride. So you're telling me that, Rias couldn't finish her sentence as she was cut off by Naruto. "Let me finish, Rias. Legends were only legends and nothing else. The legends that surrounds them were also false. While it is true that there were 3 warriors, there was also a 4th. Unlike the other 3 who were men, the 4th was a woman. They were inseparable, almost like a family. While the 3 were known for their skills and destructive power, the 4th was different. She was known for her beauty, superior healing powers as well as her kind personality. But one day, she vanished. The other 3 spent hundreds of years searching for her, especially the 2nd, but no trace of her was found. Until, one day, she suddenly appeared before them. The 3 were relieved to know that she was safe. But something felt wrong. Her energy felt tainted. Gone was her healing powers, and in its place was a power that was capable of destroying anything it touches. "You mean?" asked Rias as she finally connected the dots. "Yes. It was the same powers as yours. The power of destruction. Unlike yours, she was able to shape her powers into various creatures. With it, she formed an unstoppable army, killing and obliterating everything in her sight." The 3 were shocked and angered to know that one of their own was slaughtering other humans. They first tried to reason with her, but it fell on deaf ears as she continued her massacre. With a heavy heart, they were forced to confront her in battle. The battle lasted for a week as they reshaped the continent. She was trying to kill them, but they were unable to kill her. Every time one of them tried to dealt the finishing blow, the image of them laughing together as a family clouded their vision. "Even I was unable to," confessed Naruto as he took a deep breath and continued. "They were unable to, until something about her had changed again. On the final day of their battle, she was crying. She was not crying tears of joy nor sadness, but tears of blood. She pleaded to them to stop her, kill her if they must before she completed her ritual. They had no idea what she was talking about, and humanity paid the price for it. Over the time they were fighting, she was preparing a very long spell. After completing it, the spell took the form of the sea. A sea that was composed out of her power of destruction. They were too late to stop it as it killed millions of humans and animals. It came down on them like a tsunami. A tsunami that was capable of destroying anything. "So, did you?" asked Rias as she was listening intently to his story. The story itself was a puzzle to her. Naruto said that they were human. Even though they possess a very high power reserve, they were still human nonetheless. So how did a human know? How did the devils acquire the woman's power of destruction? No. Like us, she was basically immortal. The only thing that we could do was seal her and her powers, but the deed had been done. Other humans, the ones that we thought were our comrades, began fearing us. They no longer trusted us because of her and soon betrayed us. With less than a day, pandemonium had spread. They were paranoid, killing each other out of fear that one of them was our spy. With no other options, we sealed ourselves for who knows how long. It was a cowardly action, but if our disappearance could ensure the survival of humanity, then so be it. But recently, I had found someone else with the same powers as her, said Naruto as he looked at Rias. Is that the reason why you took me? Questioned Rias. Yes and no. At first, I was just going to kill you right there and then, but after seeing how desperate your allies were when they tried to protect you, I changed my mind. My job now is to observe you. If you were to become something like her, then mark my words. Naruto suddenly summoned his weapon and pointed it at her. I will kill you. At the tomb of the second. Rias, hide. Behind me, commanded Naruto as he was about to break the seal. Unlike me, the second is a bit more unstable and much more dangerous. He was the closest one to her, so her death changed him drastically. As Naruto got into his stance, he chanted, "You who obey my every command and will." The surrounding area was blanketed again by an invisible pressure, forcing Rias to her knees. Pierce everything before me. The tomb of the second warrior was now glowing in response to Naruto's energy. Kaladbolg. An explosion suddenly occurred as dust and debris were flying everywhere. A silhouette of a man was seen, wielding a scythe. Why have you awakened me, Naruto? Demanded the man as his energy clashed with Naruto's, neither of them overpowering the other. I need you to do a favor for me, Kaneki. He was in my sight again. The only being that had dared mocked him. The cow. After awakening his brother, he had quickly tracked the cow again. Rias was beside him, sleeping on Byakue. This time, he would make sure that she was safe and nothing would interfere his duel with the cow. For some time now, he had sensed someone with a familiar energy signature as Rias. It was faint, but it was there. The number of devils he sensed had also increased for some reason, as if someone had brought an army of devils to this world. He concluded that they were searching for Rias. Since she was under his aura, they were unable to sense her. Naruto gripped his weapon in a thrusting position. His hands were sweating from anticipation and excitement as he eyed the cow. 1. No. 2. Counted Naruto as he was waiting for the right moment to strike. How many minutes had passed since he had spotted the cow? It felt like hours. Now, thought Naruto as he was about to throw Kaladbolg into the cow's stomach, killing it, thus ending the cow's life while he danced on top of its corpse. Such is the course of nature. Well, he was about to until. Naruto, what are you doing? Someone interrupted him, again. Rias, I thought you were sleeping, asked Naruto while looking at her. Well, I just woke up, and you were unconsciously leaking some killing intent, replied Rias. I'm hunting for our food. You see that cow over there? It's gonna be our breakfast for tomorrow. What cow? Asked Rias, confused. That fat cow on the field. How can you not see it? But there's nothing there. Yes, I'll skin him and. What? Said Naruto as he was about to list the things that he could do to the cow. There's nothing there, said Rias again, except for some birds, the field is empty. Quote exclamation mark quote. As fast as lightning, Naruto dragged Byakue and Rias to the center of the field. What the? How the? When did? Those were the things that had escaped his mouth. The cow had escaped him yet again. You know what? With a sigh, he twirled Kaladbolg and leaned it on his shoulders. Cows. He was about to ride Byakue, until, everything was plunged in darkness. Rias paused. Naruto. What happened? Where are you? And what's going on? Asked Rias with uncertainty. She was afraid. She couldn't see anything. 1 minute she was staring at him, the next, all she could see was darkness. We're going back, Naruto sighed. Suddenly as he manifested his chains, that were glowing. Back. Back where? She asked again. Back to Kuo. This is his work, no doubt about it. We have to go before they show up. Rias nodded her pretty little head. She had no idea what he was talking about, but she knew that he was serious. His eyes, they weren't the same as before. It was still the same color but he somehow felt different, dangerous almost. She was about to get on top of Byakue, until she sensed a familiar energy signature. An energy that she knew too well. Rias, get on, commanded Naruto, we don't have much time. When I asked him for his help, I didn't knew that he would make his move this early. She was on Byakue now, or, Shiro, as she called him, much to the dismay of Naruto. They were about to head off, until someone had grabbed her. Normal Pav. Rias-sama, I'm so glad you're safe. We've been looking for you for weeks now, said the man with a relieved tone. The man's appearance was that of a man in his mid-20s with brown hair. Beowolf, it really is you, exclaimed Rias as she hugged the man. She was so happy to see a familiar face. She had known that her brother was searching for her, but for some reason, no one could sense her. Ah, Sears-sama will be relieved to know that his precious sister is safe. You should. He didn't get to finish his sentence as he was suddenly forced on his knees by an invisible pressure. Are you done now? Asked Naruto with a bored look. While this must be a touching moment for the both of you, we really don't have much time left. Beowolf suddenly appeared in front of Naruto, ready to plant his fist into the man's face who had dared to kidnap Rias. To his surprise, the unknown man had dodged his attack and kneed him in the stomach. Hard. He coughed up blood. He tried to stand, but the man had grabbed a fist hold of his hair and kicked him to the other side of the field. Rias, we need to go, said Naruto as he turned his back toward Beowolf. But, Rias couldn't finish her sentence as she was cut off by Naruto. Now, roared out Naruto as he glanced at her. He really didn't want to shout at her, but time was running short. The fact that Kaneki had unleashed his soul weapon was proof of that. Kaneki rarely used his soul weapon unless he was serious or if he was really pissed off for some reason. He didn't want any of that to happen. Kaneki was a calm and realistic person. He was a bit cruel and cold, but he was calm and rational. He rarely gets mad. With a heavy heart, she was forced to obey his command. She really wanted to help Beowolf. But the chances of Naruto killing him off was really high if she helped him. For some reason, Naruto was on edge ever since the darkness had suddenly appeared. The only reason she could say it was because of his chains that were glowing in the darkness. She doubted Beowolf could see either. Wait, cried out Beowolf. He was finally able to stand up. His instinct screamed at him to run away. His body ached. He couldn't think straight. The man before him was dangerous, but he didn't care. Rias was a precious person to him, precious to them. He would gladly die if it meant her safety. He also had orders to retrieve the man who had kidnapped her alive for questioning. If he was unable to, then he was given orders to kill him. Judging the situation, he doubted that he could do any of those things. But he'll be damned if he didn't try. My name is Beowolf, a pawn for the current Lucifer. Because you had dared to kidnap the current heir to the Grimoire family, I was given orders by him to eliminate you if you do not hand over Rias Grimoire, threatened Beowolf. The threat was meaningless but, one can't hope to try, right? And if I refuse, said Naruto with a dangerous voice, his eyes narrowed down dangerously. He didn't have time to deal with this, Beowolf, but if he remains persistent, then he had no choice but to kill him. Maybe I should send his head back to this, Lucifer guy when I'm done dealing with Kaneki, thought Naruto. He wouldn't do something that heartless, but the thought had suddenly came to his mind. Then you leave me no choice. I will kill you and take your corpse to be examined. Again that was a lie. Even if he did somehow manage to kill the man, he didn't know what to do with his body. Are you now? Said Naruto as he summoned his weapon, Kaladbolg. The color of his eyes had changed from blue to red with slit-like pupils. He needed to end this quickly. A quick stab to the head, neck, heart, it didn't matter. Once Kaladbolg pierces his skin, that would be the end for Beowolf. Present time with Kaneki. I was right, said Kaneki as he effortlessly deflected a sphere-shaped power of destruction with his scythe, Thanatos. Thanatos was a massive scythe, twice as large as its wielder. It had a giant black blade with a sharp silver edge with intricate runic designs on it. Kaneki was a white-haired individual. He was wearing a heavy black jacket with white flame-like patterns all over it and a plain black t-shirt. His head was hidden by a black hood and was also wearing black pants, with chains connected at the waist. He was wearing black fingerless gloves as well as a pair of dark boots. To finish off his attire, he also wore a military-style two dogs chain necklace. How were you able to do that? questioned Sears. The man before him was able to do something that some would only hope to dream of. No one had ever managed to survive his ruin the extinct, much less deflect it, but the human before him was able to do the impossible. Flashback no jutsu. An hour ago, he had sensed that someone had unleashed their energy into the air. It affected his army greatly. Most of them were knocked out while others were barely hanging on to their conscience. He himself was caught off guard by it, until someone had tried to behead him. He quickly dodged the massive scythe that was aimed at his head, but at the cost of 2 of his guards' life. He had no idea who the person was. But he could sense that he was a human. A very powerful human. He had introduced himself as well as demanded the human to why he was attacking him, but the human remained silent. It went on that way for some time now. The human tried to attack him again, but he dodged it. He knew that the human was only testing him since his attacks were far too easy to dodge. Almost like he was waiting for something. Intimidation also didn't work, as the human also possesses an abnormally high energy reserve, almost matching him. Whether the human was holding back, he didn't know. With no other choice, he was forced to use his power. When the human tried to attack him again, he countered it by concentrating his power into numerous highly mobile small spheres and sent it towards the human. He was shocked to see that the human had simply brushed it off by swatting the spheres as if they were flies with his scythe. He tried it again and again, but it ended the same way. Even when he changed strategies, it didn't work. He couldn't use his other techniques for fear that he could accidentally kill his own allies. The human was observing him now. And he had no idea why. Flashback no jutsu. Kai. Your power. It's the same as hers, but at the same time, it's different, said the man. What are you talking about, who? Sears was suddenly cut off by the man. Kaneki, my name is Kaneki. Then tell me, Kaneki. What are you talking about? Again he was cut off by Kaneki. Weak. What? Questioned Sears. He heard it clearly, but he needed to confirm it. In all of his life, no one had once called him weak. Maybe his mother had called him that when he was little, but she was only teasing him. Aside from her, however, this is the first time someone had called him weak. He wasn't really mad or offended since he needed to keep a cool head in a fight, but he was curious. Kaneki, ignoring Sears' question, continued on with his observation. Unlike her, your mastery over the power of destruction is not perfect, but its disintegrating property is the same. Interesting. Kaneki, was it? Listen to me for a second, if we could just talk this out, then maybe we can come to an understanding, pleaded Sears. If possible, he didn't want to kill this, Kaneki. Humans were weak by nature, but Kaneki was almost as powerful as him by raw power alone. Humans, unlike devils, angels, or fallen angels, were able to adapt. That is why the God of the Bible were so fond of them. But Kaneki was an anomaly among humans. If we just, but before Sears could finish his sentence, Kaneki lunged at him. Scythe had his shadows covered the soles of his boots. Sears willed his power to form some sort of shield, composed out of his power of destruction to hopefully block the strike of the scythe. Except it never hit. As the scythe drew closer to his makeshift shield, it dissolved into shadows and reformed behind him as Kaneki slashed him at his backside, leaving a deep gash as his blood dripped down to the earth. But in that moment, Kaneki was left wide open because he swung his scythe in an arc-like motion. Using that chance, Sears manifested a sphere of his power and was about to strike Kaneki. Until someone had grabbed his arm. No, something had grabbed his arm. The thing that had grabbed him was a humanoid creature that has long, sharp teeth. And its pallid flesh is stretched tightly over its starved frame. You, what have you done? Roared Sears as his eyes gazed upon the creature that had grabbed him. Unlike devils or any other mythical being, these creatures were only supposed to roam in the realm of the dead. They were not given permission to roam hell nor heaven, but the realm of death. These soulless creatures. It is as you see it, said Kaneki as he cracked his fingers. The pupil of his eyes were red, surrounded by a black sclera. I've summoned them and they will only listen to my commands. Yes, my legion of ghouls, finished Sears with an exasperated tone. With Naruto and company on top of Byakue. Ghouls. Those creatures down there are called ghouls, Rias. Ghouls. Yes, I would advise you to stay away from them. They are usually not dangerous under his command, but you have to be wary of the more intelligent type. They are far more dangerous compared to the swarm of ghouls down there, warned Naruto. Intelligent type? Asked Rias curiously. These ghouls were hideous creatures, that she had to admit. They look more like zombies if she were honest, but she could sense something from them. They had the same energy signature as Naruto, but slightly different. The intelligent types are vastly different than the average ghouls. They could think, their powers are immense, and most of all, they look like an average human. Yes, that's what makes them so dangerous back then. They could blend in and kill their unsuspecting victim. But most of them down there are only E-rank ghouls. There's a ranking between them? Asked Rias. Like seriously what? There is. They are ranked accordingly to their skills, how they think and their rationality. But the ones you have to worry about are the S, SS, and SSS rank ones. Those guys. Most of them are just brutal, said Naruto as he remembered some of them. They didn't really faze him that much since he could just kill them, but their cruelty towards humans were best left unsaid. Because of them, Kaneki was. The second warrior is able to summon those ghouls because of his nature and powers granted to him. We're in his dimension now. The dimension of shadows. He erected a barrier within this country and he is the only who can dispel it. Only people with high energy signatures could walk without being drained of their life energy or people he had deemed worthy. Since you're connected to me, you're an exception. And why are you telling me this, Naruto? Asked Rias. He rarely talks to her about his past, much less his other brothers. The only thing she knew about him was his legend. Because I don't want you to die by anyone's hand except for mine. I've already tasked myself to observe you, so naturally, your health and safety is also my responsibility. Naruto, can I? Rias was unable to finish her question as Naruto cut her off. If you're wondering about Beowolf, I didn't kill him. A broken leg is not going to be the end of him, replied Naruto. Well, he would have killed him if Rias didn't interfered. At the last moment of their fight, Rias had jumped in right before he was about to pierce Beowolf's heart, thus saving him. With not much time left, he could only make sure that Beowolf would stay down for a few days. We're almost there, thought Naruto as Byakuya had went past the warehouse where he had his fight with Rias some weeks ago. With Kaneki and Sirzex. Kaneki looked at the broken form of Sirzex with an impassive face. The man, Sirzex was it. Thought Kaneki as he twirled his scythe, Thanatos, and planted it into the ground. Sirzex was powerful, but was weak at heart. It was easy to know that he cherished the lives of his army. Every time he went to one of the devils that had passed out, Sirzex suddenly stopped attacking. Or his attacks were weak enough that he could be hit by it and came out unscathed. He could always deflect those spheres of his, but he didn't want his scythe to be tainted by the power of destruction. After a while, he had noticed that there was a pattern in Sirzek's attack. To use those spheres, he needed his arms to conjure it. So he broke them. Both of them. Now Sirzex was unable to manifest any of those spheres. No, the fight was over when he slashed at Sirzek's back earlier. The curse of his scythe, Thanatos, was already inside Sirzex's body. Sirzex, was it? Said Kaneki. Why did you hold back? I sensed a far greater power in you than this. He then went to the body of Sirzex and planted his foot on top of his stomach. You are mistaken, said Sirzex weakly as he coughed up blood. His body ached. He couldn't feel his hands. He considered using his true power many times throughout the fight, but he didn't want to sacrifice his army just for one man. But maybe for this one time, I need to, thought Sirzex before he banished the thought from his mind. He wouldn't dare sacrifice his army. Not only will he be ridden by guilt when this is all over. The devil faction would be severely weakened by it since his army was one of the largest in the underworld. There were still so many things that he needed to do. He didn't want to die yet. He still needed to find Rias. He needed to return to Grafia and his son Malika's. He needed to know how this man was able to summon the ghouls. If left alone, those ghouls would terrorize the world as well as upsetting the balance between the three factions. How are you able to control the ghouls? He said with a hoarse voice. His vision was getting cloudy due to blood loss. How you say, replied Kaneki, his face emotionless as he gazed at the man before him. The curse of Thanatos was starting to affect. Black runic-like symbols riddled his body. Sears. Before I answer your question, do you know how your power existed and who was its progenitor? He said. Sears tried to answer him but he coughed up more blood instead. He had no idea what Kaneki was saying so he could only stare in silence. I'll take that as a no. You are like a weed in my garden, Sears. My garden is filled with flowers. Out of all the flowers in my garden, I cherish 2 of them compared to the rest. There used to be 3 but she wilted. Because you are a weed. I need to pull you out before you become a nuisance, said Kaneki as he cracked his fingers. He swung his scythe back, ready to deal the finishing blow. As for how I was able to control these ghouls, it is because he is the one who governs the shadows and death, continued an unknown stranger. As he parried the scythe with a spear and stood between Kaneki and Sears. Kaneki, while narrowing his eyes, stared at the new arrival. Naruto. He is the one who governs the shadows and death, continued an unknown stranger as he parried the scythe with a spear and stood between Kaneki and Sears. Kaneki, while narrowing his eyes, stared at the new arrival. Naruto. Scythe and spear class. Head against each other as the 2 brothers glared at each other. Blood-red eyes with a black sclera met the eyes of an equally blood-red eyes with slit-like pupils. I will not let you kill her. Kaneki, said Naruto. After he interrupted the fight between his brother and a man with red hair, he realized that he had made a mistake. He had left Rias, therefore she was not cloaked by his energy. Before he could stop his brother, Kaneki was already gone. Using his chains, he appeared before her, only to block a massive scythe inches away from her neck, drawing a thin line of blood from it. Kaneki, with an emotionless face, clenched the handle of his scythe tighter. Why are you standing in my way? Naruto. He asked, eyes narrowed down dangerously. I do not wish to fight you. Do not make me repeat myself, Kaneki. I will not let you harm nor kill her, or else, threatened Naruto as he twirled Kaladbolg and rested it on his shoulders. Why? He asked. Naruto was very defensive of the girl, going so far as to threaten him. The threat was meaningless since he could easily kill Naruto as Naruto could easily kill him. Well, close to dying anyway since both of them were immortal. Because she belongs to me. She belongs to you, repeated Kaneki. You mean you've binded her soul to yours? And what if I did, retorted Naruto. Then you were more of a fool than I thought you were, Naruto, said Kaneki. Have you forgotten about the oath that the 3 of us had sworn upon? How dare you accuse me of that? Roared out Naruto as his energy spiked, causing a small tremor. Then what was the oath that we had sworn upon? Asked Kaneki. A deathly silence filled the air as both warriors looked upon each other. One was waiting for answer while the other could only stare in silence. To never betray each other. To never misuse our powers. To kill any source of power that had once or will be posing a threat to humanity, recited Naruto as he listed the oath one by one. As well as to keep her sealed for all of eternity. And in the event that one of us had broken the oath that we had sworn upon, continued Kaneki. Then the remaining warriors will put an end to the one that had betrayed them. With no exceptions, no matter what the reason is, finished Naruto. Then Naruto asked Kaneki as his energy spiked, shadows enveloping his body. If you remembered our oath, why did you bind her soul to yours? An act like that can be treated as breaking the oath depending on how I view it. It is because I deemed it necessary to observe her, answered Naruto. And why is that? Because she intrigues me. She possesses the power of destruction, the very power that had killed millions of people and obliterated our army, and yet, she remains sane. Whether she is sane or not does not give you the right to endanger millions of lives. With a swing of his scythe, Thanatos, a wave of shadows took the forms of various hideous ghouls as they swarmed at Naruto. It is because of that very reason I deemed it necessary to observe her. Roared out Naruto as he swung his spear in an arc-like motion, creating various razor-sharp wind blades to slice the oncoming wave of ghouls. What benefit will you gain from observing her? What you're doing is reckless and dangerous. I know, screamed out Naruto. I know, but you should have seen it, Kaneki. The way her allies, her friends, risked their lives to protect her when I tried to kill her. Knowing that they were fighting an enemy that they had no chance of winning. It reminded me of us when we were fighting her. But, unlike us, We had the power to win, we had the power to defeat her and seal her, but we chose not to. Until it was too late. With an impassive face, Kaneki could only listen on to what his fellow warrior was talking about as he lowered down his energy. While I do understand what you were trying to do, Naruto, it doesn't change the fact that she needs to be eliminated. I can't let you do that. Kaneki, said Naruto as he pointed Caladbolg at his brother in all but blood. Naruto, why can't you understand? Asked Kaneki. I want to protect the people that are close to me. That also includes the third and you, Naruto. I don't want to lose anyone important to me. That's why I will pull out any interfering weeds, said Kaneki while cracking his fingers. No one is yours to do what you want with, Kaneki. There is no reason we have to be protected by you, said Naruto. You pretend that you care about other people, but in the end, it's all about you. You're just afraid of being alone, aren't you? What you want is nothing more than self-satisfaction, he continued. You think you know me better than myself? Asked Kaneki as his energy spiked once again as he narrowed his eyes. The black sclera as well as his blood-red eyes making it much more intimidating. Yeah, I do, said Naruto as he had to dodge a wave of shadows as well as a scythe aiming for his legs. As I said before, Naruto. I do not wish to fight you. But if you insist on getting in my way, then, I will break you, he said as he lunged at Naruto, scythe in hand. Naruto parried the scythe with his spear, as both warriors tried to overwhelm the other, before disengaging and landed a few meters apart. Naruto thrusted his spear, aiming for Kaneki's left shoulder, but it was blocked by a barrier, composed out of shadows. Kaneki slashed the air in an arc-like motion, aiming for Naruto's head, but Naruto quickly stabbed his spear into the ground behind him so it would act like a pole and balanced his entire body on top of it. Before using his chains to stop the momentum of the scythe as well as trying to imprison Kaneki with it. It proved useless as Kaneki slashed all of the chains that had tried to ensnare him, effectively cutting all of them, surprising Naruto. How were you able to cut my soul chains, Kaneki? He asked out of curiosity. No one has ever been able to scratch it, much less cut it. Not even the third was able to. The battle between him and his brother was meaningless after all. Neither of them could kill each other. Even if he were to stab Kaneki in the face with Caladbolg, the wound would just regenerate itself even if the wound was fatal. And why would I tell you that, Naruto? Aren't we brothers? You shouldn't let you guard down, Naruto, said Kaneki as he suddenly appeared behind Naruto using his mastery of the shadows and slashed Naruto's back. Before he was literally stabbed in the back by a blue spear with intricate designs. And who said I was? Aim the voice of Naruto as the Naruto that Kaneki had slashed disappeared in a gust of wind. I did, said Kaneki as he re-emerged from the shadows and dropped to the ground, flipping his hands around and using a wide sweeping kick to trip Naruto and pierce his body with multiple tendrils of shadows, pinning him to the ground. Like the clone of Naruto, the Kaneki that was stabbed by the spear revealed to be a hideous ghoul that was transformed to look like the original Kaneki before it died and its body became one with the shadows again. You shouldn't underestimate me, Naruto. Even if I need to break your bones, cut of your legs or arms, your fingers and toes over and over again, or even cutting of your head, if it means that I can protect you, then I will do what needs to be done. Kaneki, came the hoarse voice of Naruto. You fool, he said before using his chains to wrap themselves to Kaneki's arm and pulling him to meet the sharp edge of Caladbolg as it pierced Kaneki's neck. I see, said Kaneki as he coughed up blood. You finally decided to use that to fake your injuries. Surrounding Naruto were 8 spheres of malleable black chakra, also known as the truth-seeking balls, said Naruto. These spheres of chakra were the only substance besides us and our soul weapons that could not be obliterated by the power of destruction, as well as the ultimate defense. How can you even talk anyway? I pierced you vocal cords. Even if we are immortal, we still experience pain. You think that after everything else that I've been through, something like this would hurt? Replied Kaneki as he pulled out the spear from his neck, the wound quickly closing up thanks to his regenerative ability. I'm done playing games, Kaneki. You can't win. Nothing can pierce through. My truth-seeking balls, said Naruto as he summoned his spear again with a flick of his wrist. Kaneki released his soul weapon as Thanatos dissipated into shadows as the corners of his lips curled upwards. Are you underestimating me, Kaneki? To fight without your soul weapon is a joke that I do not find funny, warned Naruto. Without a reply from Kaneki, he lunged at his brother, aiming for his chest. But it was avoided by Kaneki as he did a backflip and landed a couple of feet in front of him. He thrusted his spear towards Kaneki again, crushing the ground but missing its target as Kaneki. I jumped high into the air and landed behind him. He tried it again but Kaneki once again jumped behind him to evade the blow and kicked the left side of his body with tremendous force, but the impact was absorbed by the truth-seeking balls. After a while of fail thrusting by Naruto and the jumping Kaneki, he swinged his spear in an arc-like motion, but Kaneki quickly ducked under it and dealt a devastating blow to Naruto's stomach. But again, the impact was absorbed by the truth-seeking balls. Using the chance, Naruto summoned his chains to wrap the body of Kaneki and threw him against the wall. Of the school building as hard as he could, breaking the wall as well as kicking up dust and debris everywhere. Naruto looked at the scene before him and was about to check on Rias before an enormous pressure of energy was felt. It managed to surprise him for a split second before he readied himself for another round with his brother. Emerging from the dust and debris, was Kaneki with his eyes shadowed by his hair. 4 red tentacle-like claws sprouted from out of the back of his waist, waving around without his commands. His Kagun. With a crazed smile he looked at the form of his brother. Now, it's my turn. Cracking his fingers, the 4 tentacled clawed appendages heeded his command as it all pointed at Naruto, menacingly. So he's using his Kagun now, huh? Thought Naruto as he gripped Caladbulb tighter. The fight between him and Kaneki just got a lot more harder. Kaneki jumped into the air using his Kagun and clashed it with Naruto's spear. With each clash, he was able to overpower Naruto's strength. The truth-seeking balls could not protect its master if the master did not order it to do so. Keeping Naruto busy with the clashes of his Kagun would be the best choice to distract him. Kagun met Caladbulb in a battle of power as the 2 warriors fought for supremacy. Kaneki had the edge as he was able to use 2 of his red claw-like tentacles to stay aloft. And using the other 2 to overwhelm Naruto while the latter could only defend. Again and again, the 2 weapons met until Kaneki, using his momentum in the air, slammed Naruto using the 2 red claw-like tentacles as hard as he could and again, kicking up dust and debris, obscuring his vision, but it didn't matter. He could sense that Naruto was still breathing. He lowered himself down to reach the floor as he waited for the moment Naruto would attack. Naruto emerged from out of the debris and lunged at Kaneki, but both warriors were prepared as they dodged every attack the other would throw out. Naruto was able to pierce the leg of Kaneki, while Kaneki managed to hit him with his Kagun, breaking his arm. He then used his blood from the wound that Naruto had inflicted and blinded Naruto's vision by throwing it at his eyes. Using his Kagun, he leapt high into the sky, spread his Kagun and slammed all 4 of the red claw-like tentacles at Naruto's body, creating a crater as well as kicking up, yet again, more dust. I'm sorry if I'm overusing this scene as well as some words, kicking up dust and debris as well as other words, but I don't know how to explain it. T. Looking down at the crater, Kaneki could saw the visage of his brother. Naruto's body was a bloody mess. Part of his hair was soaked in blood as Naruto nurtured his broken arm. Naruto glared at Kaneki with one eye, while the other was closed due to some injury of some sort. The blood of the ghouls were corrosive after all. I'm impressed that you are still standing, Naruto praised Kaneki as he fixed his hoodie that was somewhat tattered. He needed to replace this soon. It was a shame really. He liked this shirt. Breathed out Naruto as he leaned on Caladbulb for support. You got lucky, bastard. You and I know that luck had nothing to do with it, replied Kaneki. I know that you were holding back, Naruto. Breathing heavily, he asked, what do you mean by that? You weren't serious, Naruto. Neither were you. But you were holding back much more compared to me, retorted Kaneki as he cracked his fingers. A true fight between us would result in both of us passing out from exhaustion or losing a couple of limbs. And yet, I am fine while you look horrible. Well then, would you like to fight me seriously? Asked Naruto, eyes narrowed down dangerously. All traces Of exhaustion and bruises were nowhere to be seen as a dragon-like creature emerged with chains wrapped around its body, protecting its master. "Ayukai?" asked Kaneki. "Ah, I named him Byakue. I wanted to call him Shiro since his fur is white like your hair, but Byakue sounded much more fitting." "The third will not be pleased with you," replied Kaneki. "As if he could do anything to me," replied Naruto dismissively. "Unlike you, he still has his original army. Well, I have a Byakue. But back to the matter at hand, I still won't let you kill her, Kaneki." "Is that so?" said Kaneki as his Kagun waved around menacingly. "As I said before, nothing can pierce my truth-seeking balls." As soon as those words left his mouth, thousands upon thousands of shadow warriors emerged and attacked him. Naruto was able to use his TSB, truth-seeking balls will now be referred to I'm lazy, to shield himself from the onslaught of shadows. "It's useless, Kaneki, your shadows cannot pierce, Naruto W." As unable to complete his sentences he coughed up blood. Two of Kaneki's Kagun had pierced his body, as well as piercing his TSB. How were you able to do that?" asked Naruto as he coughed up more blood. He forgot how powerful Kaneki's Kagun was, as well as how painful it is to have it in your gut. "Have you forgotten what we are, Naruto?" he said as he summoned his scythe. "Have you forgotten what we were meant to do? Do you even know why we even exist?" Questions after questions were asked but none were given an answer. Silence. "I'll take that as a no," said Kaneki. "Well, I expected that you were unable to remember." "What do you mean by that, Kaneki?" The wound was healing now. There was a giant hole in his stomach, but he was able to talk properly now. "When we were done sealing her away, both you and the third erased your respective memories, leaving me to bear the burden." "We did." Kaneki, ignoring Naruto's question, continued. "You really don't remember, do you?" Kaneki said with an emotionless face. But his eyes betrayed his expression. "No, I don't." "Now tell me." Naruto started off Kaneki. "The only reason I was able to break your TSB with my Kagun was because of nature." "Nature?" "Yes. We were made by nature, as in the will of humanity, as well as the earth." "What do you mean by will of humanity?" questioned Naruto as he was beginning to connect the dots. "We, the original four warriors, were meant to destroy humanity, not save it." "So the reason she was?" asked Naruto but was cut off by Kaneki. "Yes. It is because we are natures, or in this case, the Earth's natural defense system." Scythe and spear clashed against each other as the two brothers glared at each other. Blood-red eyes with a black sclera met the eyes of an EQ. "You ally blood-red eyes with slit-like pupils. I will not let you kill her, Kaneki," said Naruto. After he interrupted the fight between his brother and a man with red hair, he realized that he had made a mistake. He had left Rias. Therefore she was not cloaked by his energy. Before he could stop his brother, Kaneki was already gone. Using his chains, he appeared before her, only to block a massive scythe inches away from her neck, drawing a thin line of blood from it. Kaneki, with an emotionless face, clenched the handle of his scythe tighter. "Why are you standing in my way, Naruto?" he asked, eyes narrowed down dangerously. "I do not wish to fight you. Do not make me repeat myself, Kaneki. I will not let you harm nor kill her, or else," threatened Naruto as he twirled Kaladbolg and rested it on his shoulders. "Why?" he asked. Naruto was very defensive of the girl, going so far as to threaten him. The threat was meaningless since he could easily kill Naruto as Naruto could easily kill him. Well, close to dying anyway since both of them were immortal. "Because she belongs to me." "She belongs to you," repeated Kaneki. "You mean you've binded her soul to yours?" "And what if I did?" retorted Naruto. "Then you were more of a fool than I thought you were, Naruto," said Kaneki. "Have you forgotten about the oath that the three of us had sworn upon?" "How dare you accuse me of that?" roared out Naruto as his energy spiked, causing a small tremor. "Then what was the oath that we had sworn upon?" asked Kaneki. A deathly silence filled the air as both warriors looked upon each other. One was waiting for answer while the other could only stare in silence. To never betray each other. To never misuse our powers. To kill any source of power that had once or will be posing a threat to humanity. Recited Naruto as he listed the oath one by one. as well as to keep her sealed for all of eternity. And in the event that one of us had broken the oath that we had sweared upon, continued Kaneki. Then the remaining warriors will put an end to the one that had betrayed them, with no exceptions, no matter what the reason is, finished Naruto. Then Naruto, asked Kaneki as his energy spiked. Shadows enveloping his body. If you remembered our oath, why did you bind her soul to yours? An act like that can be treated as breaking the oath depending on how I view it. It is because I deemed it necessary to observe her, answered Naruto. And why is that? Because she intrigues me. She possesses the power of destruction, the very power that had killed millions of people and obliterated our army. And yet, she remains sane. Whether she is sane or not does not give you the right to endanger millions of lives. With a swing of his scythe, Thanatos, a wave of shadows took the forms of various hideous ghouls as they swarmed at Naruto. It is because of that very reason I deemed it necessary to observe her. Roared out Naruto as he swung his spear in an arc-like motion, creating various razor-sharp wind blades to slice the oncoming wave of ghouls. What benefit will you gain from observing her? What you're doing is reckless and dangerous. I know, screamed out Naruto. I know. But, you should have seen it, Kaneki. The way her allies, her friends, risked their lives to protect her when I tried to kill her, knowing that they were fighting an enemy that they had no chance of winning. It reminded me of us when we were fighting her. But, unlike us, we had the power to win, we had the power to defeat her and seal her, but we chose not to. Until it was too late. With an impassive face, Kaneki could only listen on to what his fellow warrior was talking about as he lowered down his energy. While I do understand what you were trying to do, Naruto, it doesn't change the fact that she needs to be eliminated. I can't let you do that, Kaneki, said Naruto as he pointed Caladbolg at his brother in all but blood. Naruto, why can't you understand? Asked Kaneki. I want to protect the people that are close to me. That also includes the third and you, Naruto. I don't want to lose anyone important to me. That's why I will pull out any interfering weeds, said Kaneki while cracking his fingers. No one is yours to do what you want with, Kaneki. There is no reason we have to be protected by you, said Naruto. You pretend that you care about other people, but in the end, it's all about you. You're just afraid of being alone, aren't you? What you want is nothing more than self-satisfaction, he continued. You think you know me better than myself? Asked Kaneki as his energy spiked once again as he narrowed his eyes. The black sclera as well as his blood-red eyes making it much more intimidating. Yeah, I do, said Naruto as he had to dodge a wave of shadows as well as a scythe aiming for his legs. As I said before, Naruto, I do not wish to fight you. But if you insist on getting in my way, then I will break you, he said as he lunged at Naruto, scythe in hand. Naruto parried the scythe with his spear as both warriors tried to overwhelm the other, before disengaging and landed a few meters apart. Naruto thrusted his spear, aiming for Kaneki's left shoulder. But it was blocked by a barrier, composed out of shadows. Kaneki slashed the air in an arc-like motion, aiming for Naruto's head, but Naruto quickly stabbed his spear into the ground behind him so it would act like a pole and balanced his entire body on top of it, before using his chains to stop the momentum of the scythe as well as trying to imprison Kaneki with it. It proved useless as Kaneki slashed all of the chains that had tried to ensnare him, effectively cutting all of them, surprising Naruto. How were you able to cut my soul chains, Kaneki? He asked out of curiosity. No one has ever been able to scratch it, much less cut it. Not even the third was able to. The battle between him and his brother was meaningless after all. Neither of them could kill each other. Even if he were to stab Kaneki in the face with Caladbolg, the wound would just regenerate itself even if the wound was fatal. And why would I tell you that, Naruto? TCH. Aren't we brothers? You shouldn't let you guard down, Naruto, said Kaneki as he suddenly appeared behind Naruto using his mastery of the shadows and slashed Naruto's back. Before he was literally BBED in the back by a blue spear with intricate designs. And who said I was? Came the voice of Naruto as the Naruto that Kaneki had slashed disappeared in a gust of wind. I did, said Kaneki as he re-emerged from the shadows and dropped to the ground, flipping his hands around and using a wide, sweeping kick to trip Naruto and pierce his body with multiple tendrils of shadows, pinning him to the ground. like the clone of Naruto. The Kaneki that was stabbed by the spear revealed to be a hideous ghoul that was transformed to look like the original Kaneki before it died and its body became one with the shadows again. You shouldn't underestimate me, Naruto. Even if I need to break your bones, cut of your legs or arms, your fingers and toes over and over again, or even cutting of your head, if it means that I can protect you, then I will do what needs to be done. Kaneki, came the hoarse voice of Naruto. You fool, he said before using his chains to wrap themselves to Kaneki's arm and pulling him to meet the sharp edge of Kaladbolg as it pierced Kaneki's neck. I see, said Kaneki as he coughed up blood. You finally decided to use that to fake your injuries. Surrounding Naruto were 8 spheres of malleable black chakra, also known as the truth-seeking balls, said Naruto. These spheres of chakra were the only substance besides us and our soul weapons that could not be obliterated by the power of destruction, as well as the ultimate defense. How can you even talk anyway? I pierced you vocal cords. Even if we are immortal, we still experience pain. You think that after everything else that I've been through, something like this would hurt? Replied Kaneki as he pulled out the spear from his neck, the wound quickly closing up thanks to his regenerative ability. I'm done playing games, Kaneki. You can't win. Nothing can pierce through my truth-seeking balls, said Naruto as he summoned his spear again with a flick of his wrist. Kaneki released his Su-L weapon as Thanatos dissipated into shadows as the corners of his lips curled upwards. Are you underestimating me, Kaneki? To fight without your soul weapon is a joke that I do not find funny, warned Naruto. Without a reply from Kaneki, he lunged at his brother, aiming for his chest, but it was avoided by Kaneki as he did a backflip and landed a couple of feet in front of him. He thrusted his spear towards Kaneki again, crushing the ground but missing its target as Kaneki jumped high into the air and landed behind him. He tried it again but Kaneki once again jumped behind him to evade the blow and kicked the left side of his body with tremendous force, but the impact was absorbed by the truth-seeking balls. After a while of fail thrusting by Naruto and the jumping Kaneki, he swinged his spear in an arc-like motion. But Kaneki quickly ducked under it and dealt a devastating blow to Naruto's stomach, but again, the impact was absorbed by the truth-seeking balls. Using the chance, Naruto summoned his chains to wrap the body of Kaneki and threw him against the wall of the school building as hard as he could, breaking the wall as well as kicking up dust and debris everywhere. Naruto looked at the scene before him and was about to check on Rias before an enormous pressure of energy was felt. It managed to surprise him for a split second before he readied himself for another round with his brother. Emerging from the dust and debris, was Kaneki with his eyes shadowed by his hair. 4 red tentacle-like claws sprouted from out of the back of his waist, waving around without his commands. His Kagun. With a crazed smile he looked at the form of his brother. Now, it's my turn. Cracking his fingers, the 4 tentacled clawed appendages heeded his command as it all pointed at Naruto, menacingly. So he's using his Kagun now, huh? Thought Naruto as he gripped Kaladbolg tighter. The fight between him and Kaneki just got a lot more harder. Kaneki jumped into the air using his Kagun and clashed it with Naruto's spear. With each clash, he was able to overpower Naruto's strength. The truth-seeking balls could not protect its master if the master did not order it to do so. Keeping Naruto busy with the clashes of his Kagun would be the best choice to distract him. Kagun met Kaladbolg in a battle of power as the 2 warriors fought for supremacy. Kaneki had the edge as he was able to use 2 of his red claw-like tentacles to stay aloft and using the other 2 to overwhelm Naruto while the latter could only defend. Again and again, the 2 weapons met until Kaneki, using his momentum in the air, slammed Naruto using the 2 red claw-like tentacles as hard as he could and again, kicking up dust and debris, obscuring his vision, but it didn't matter. He could sense that Naruto was still breathing. He lowered himself down to reach the floor as he waited for the moment Naruto would attack. Naruto emerged from out of the debris and lunged at Kaneki, both warriors were prepared as they dodged every attack the other would throw out. Naruto was able to pierce the leg of Kaneki, while Kaneki managed to hit him with his Kagun, breaking his arm. He then used his blood from the wound that Naruto had inflicted and blinded Naruto's vision by throwing it at his eyes. Using his Kagun, he leapt high into the sky, spread his Kagun and slammed all Fu R of the red claw-like tentacles at Naruto's body, creating a crater as well as kicking up, yet again, more dust. I'm sorry if I'm overusing this scene as well as some words kicking up dust and deb. Is as well as other words but I don't know how to explain it t. Looking down at the crater, Kaneki could saw the visage of his brother. Naruto's body was a bloody mess. Part of his hair was soaked in blood as Naruto nurtured his broken arm. Naruto glared at Kaneki with one eye while the other was closed due to some injury of some sort. The blood of the ghouls were corrosive after all. I'm impressed that you are still standing. Naruto praised Kaneki as he fixed his hoodie that was somewhat tattered. He needed to replace this soon. It was a shame really. He liked this shirt. Ha, ha, breathed out Naruto as he leaned on Caladbold for support. You got lucky, bastard. You and I know that luck had nothing to do with it, replied Kaneki. I know that you were holding back, Naruto. Breathing heavily, he asked, what do you mean by that? You weren't serious, Naruto. Neither were you. But you were holding back much more compared to me, retorted Kaneki as he cracked his fingers. A true fight between us would result in both of us passing out from exhaustion or losing a couple of limbs. And yet, I am fine while you look horrible. Well then, would you like to fight me seriously? Asked Naruto. Eyes narrowed down dangerously. All traces of exhaustion and bruises were nowhere to be seen as a dragon-like creature emerged with chains wrapped around its body, protecting its master. Ayukai? Asked Kaneki. Ah, I named him Byakue. I wanted to call him Shiro since his fur is white like your hair, but Byakue sounded much more fitting. The third will not be pleased with you, replied Kaneki. As if he could do anything to me, replied Naruto dismissively. Unlike you, he still has his original army. Well, I have a Byakue. But back to the matter at hand. I still won't let you kill her, Kaneki. Is that so? Said Kaneki as his Kagun waved around menacingly. As I said before, nothing can pierce my truth-seeking balls. As soon as those words left his mouth, thousands upon thousands of shadow warriors emerged and attacked him. Naruto was able to use his TSB, truth-seeking balls will now be referred to I'm lazy, to shield himself from the onslaught of shadows. It's useless. Kaneki, your shadows cannot pierce. Naruto was unable to complete his sentence as he coughed up blood. Two of Kaneki's Kagun had pierced his body, as well as piercing his TSB. How were you able to do that? Asked Naruto as he coughed up more blood. He forgot how powerful Kaneki's Kagun was, as well as how painful it is to have it in your gut. Have you forgotten what we are? Naruto, he said as he summoned his scythe. Have you forgotten what we were meant to do? Do you even know why we even exist? Questions after questions were asked but none were given an answer. Silence. I'll take that as a no, said Kaneki. Well, I expected that you were unable to remember. What do you mean by that, Kaneki? The wound was healing now. There was a giant hole in his stomach. But he was able to talk properly now. Rewrite. Naruto. We were created by nature herself. We are a means to an end. When mankind was at its breaking point, we were created by her to finish them off. Nature views mankind as a threat to her and created us to end them. With the powers she granted us, we deceived them, we built an army of mankind's finest warriors. And killed them. But she underestimated humanity's will to live. The very nature of human beings is to survive and live on after all. Back when we used to slaughter humans according to her will. The will of humanity was much more stronger than hers to the point that it even affected us. We disobeyed her commands and protected humanity instead of eliminating them. But, unknown to even us, nature had a fail-safe plan. In the event that we would betray her, a switch was flipped. No matter how powerful we are, no matter what we try to do. Nature's command was absolute. That is to eradicate all human beings. From then on, we are nothing more than a tool that obeys her every command. The powers of the warrior that was under her command would then spread to the other remaining warriors until all of them are under her command once again. The fourth was an example to that, continued Naruto. So you do remember, stated Kaneki. I'd rather not. Then you'd understand why she. No. Those who possesses the power of destruction is to be killed to avoid her influence on us. If even one of them grows in power to match the fourth, then I know that, shouted Naruto. But, suddenly, black runic-like symbols appeared on Naruto's body, restricting his movements. This is the curse of Thanatos, came the voice of Kaneki. It took a while for it to affect you, but no one can break out of it once I've placed it inside of your body. When did you? At the very start. When you blocked my side when protecting that girl, the tip of Thanatos was able to scratch your cheek. After that, I just needed to stall for time. But I am aware of your truth-seeking balls blocking the initial attack, but have you forgotten what I said earlier? Answered Kaneki as he cracked his fingers. We are created by nature. Our body was created by raw natural energy. My Kagun was able to pierce your TSB because it was the physical manifestation of the natural energy inside of my body. He then walked to an area a couple of meters away and extended his hand. It looked like he was gripping the thin air itself before stripping away the technique which was created by Naruto. A light blue-violet aura surrounds the area, revealing the form of Rias, who was panicking with tears in her eyes as she gradually comes into view. You might have been able to hide her physical form and energy, but her presence still remains. Naruto. As he said that, he gripped his side. Kaneki, stop! Screamed out Naruto as he tried to stop his brother from killing her, but it fell on deaf ears as Kaneki ignored him. He then slashed it horizontally as the girl's blood covered his face and entered his mouth. He tasted the blood of the girl as he viewed her memory. Her precious moments, her accomplishments, her grief, her parents and her friends. But there was only one problem. The blood did not belong to the red-haired girl. It belonged to Akeno, cried out Rias in anguish as she watched the body of her best friend laying limp on the ground. You might have been able to hide her physical form and energy, but her presence still remains, Naruto. As he said that, he gripped his side. Kaneki, stop! Screamed out Naruto as he tried to stop his brother from killing her, but it fell on deaf ears as Kaneki ignored him. He then slashed it horizontally as the girl's blood covered his face and entered his mouth. He tasted the blood of the girl as he viewed her memory. Her precious moments, her accomplishments, her grief, her parents and her friends. But there was only one problem. The blood did not belong to the red-haired girl. It belonged to Akeno, cried out Rias in anguish as she watched the body of her best friend laying limp on the ground. A sigh of boredom escaped his lips as he watched a supposed nun of the church with blonde hair trying and failing to heal the wound that he had caused to the familiar boy with brown hair. After a few tries it looked like the girl was apologizing to the boy while bowing her head to the floor. After that humiliating display for both parties, they started walking to an unknown destination. The girl was walking fine while the boy was limping. Right now, he was just floating around in the air like it was the most natural thing for a human to do. Seriously though, he really had nothing to do. Thanks to his mastery over the wind, sky, air, he could make himself invisible as to not scare any wandering humans or attract any unwanted attention from any supernatural being. It's useless. Nothing in this universe can heal the wound of my Caladbulb once it pierces any part of your body unless I will it, said Naruto as he talked to himself. He's been doing that a lot lately ever since he was reawakened for some reason. It's as if he was waiting for someone or something to reply. Sometimes, when he tried remembering about the happy days he used to spend with his pseudo-siblings, pangs of guilt and regret plagued his memories. Where they came from, he had no idea. But since he had other things to worry about, those things were unimportant, nor was he interested in doing some mundane tasks like remembering his pasts. In all honesty, he totally forgot about the wound that he had inflicted to the boy. I wonder how he managed to walk like that for all of those weeks. Mused Naruto while stroking his non-existent beard. Might as well lift the curse for the poor bastard, he continued as he flicked his wrists as a blue ethereal glow surrounded his body as well as the leg of the boy before it died down. Aside from that, he was indeed curious. In the memories that he was able to recall, he could remember talking to a titanic beast with 9 tails as well as other beasts but with lesser tails. He also remembered fighting a monstrosity that towered over all of those beasts as well as a man with godlike powers, and following him was a woman that far outclassed the man. She was almost at the same level as the beast, and a lot smarter too. Those memories did not belong to him, and yet, at the same time it did. It must have belonged to the Naruto halted his train of thoughts as he watched in curiosity as a raven hair. The girl with a ponytail was running around frantically, as if she was trying to find something. If he remembered correctly, her name was Akeno. The foolish devil who had sacrificed her life to save her friend. He could still remember it clearly. Her body was sliced in half while millions of shadows ravaged her body. Well, he couldn't really call her a devil now, can he? She was supposed to die on that day. Whether she liked it or not. Her life and destiny changed drastically the moment she intervened in their fight. Yes, the girl named Akeno was interesting indeed. A fallen angel turned devil. As well as being one of the few individuals that was able to evade the hands of death by their hands. At first, she was a fallen angel. Under certain circumstances, she was later turned into a devil. And now, because of what had happened on that day, she is now a ghoul. A few hours later. So, when are you going to wake up Rias? Asked Naruto, but Rias was nowhere in sight. They kept me waiting long enough, he stated as he scratched the ear of a black cat that he had found wandering the streets. The cat purred in response while showing him its eyes, as if asking him for more. To be more precise, a girl was asking him for more. He could sense that the cat was actually a yokai in disguise. Like seriously, who the hell does she think she's trying to fool? Well, it doesn't matter really, thought Naruto. I don't sense any hatred nor any killing intent from her, so it's fine. If it comes down to it, I can just kill her. Unknown to the yokai in disguise, while Naruto was petting her, he had secretly enveloped a very, very thin line of his ethereal chains around her body. If she tried anything against him, it would only be in a matter of milliseconds for her to die. You know Kuro Neko. Should I give her a little push? He asked the black cat. Meow, asked the cat in confusion as it tilted its head. You see, one of my possessions is in a coma because of a very close friend of mine had done some things to her best friend, and it left her in a very, very bad state. Seeing your best friend being sliced in half as well as being ravaged by an onslaught of shish Ados was enough to cause her to have a mental breakdown. To save herself, or itself, her brain had shut down every part of her body so she doesn't do anything stupid or reckless. Because of that, she is in a coma. Meow. I should. Meow. But, the side effect of forcibly waking her up from her coma would. Meow. What do you mean I'm dumb? Meow. Well, yeah but. Meow. I swear if you call me a dumbass again. Meow. A sigh escaped his lips yet again as the black cat had won their little argument. He then went down to the ground and set up a barrier in the area. You know, for a yokai. You have a very clear head, said Naruto. All of the yokai that I had known were all drunkards who did nothing but drink sake and party. Meow. Yes I know, and as a matter of fact, they were powerful. At least, their leader was. He was a sibling of mine. Mio. The cat was unable to finish its sentence meowing. As Naruto had cut her off. You know Neko, you're right. She's kept me waiting for long enough. If there are side effects, I'll cross that bridge when I get there, said Naruto as he summoned Caladbolg. He tapped the blunt edge of Caladbolg on the ground 2 times before drawing a line. Suddenly, blue azure flames began to ignite everywhere as it surrounded him, and yet, it burned nothing. You, who are under my command. Blue ethereal chains erupted from the ground as it swung around violently. Arise and serve the first seraph again. The blue azure flames began rising in heat as it began to tower over his body. By the chains that binds us. The chains call, or changed from blue to red as the ritual was at its peak. Tamashi number Rensa. Chains of the souls. A massive pressure of pure energy blanketed the whole area and froze everything. It was as if time itself had stopped. Some hospital in the underworld. In a hospital room lies the form of a young teenage girl with red hair as her body was lying on the bed. Numerous hospital equipments were surrounding her as well as 2 individuals. One of them wielded a katana-like weapon where the second individual appears to be holding a staff. Even when it was well past midnight, those 2 individuals were still keeping their eyes on the heiress of the Grimoire family. They had been tasked by their master, the current Lucifer, to guard his little sister. Their lord himself was also in critical condition. To avoid pandemonium among the devil faction, only those of a very high rank or people who had a very close relation to him Those people being the other current Satans, the current head of the Baal family as well as his parents. Wife and peerage members were informed on the current situation. No one knew what had happened to him, nor what had happened to rest of his army. The peerage members who had gone along with him were also clueless to who could have done something like that towards their lord. Sirzek suddenly came back to the underworld, beaten beyond recognition with tears in his eyes as he cried to himself. The only person who knew the answer was Beowolf, but he was in a condition far worse than Sirzek's. He and Sirzek kept repeating the same words over and over again. Ho's words were either, ghouls and chains, but sometimes, Beowolf would say something completely different. His words were, Jubii. Those thoughts were plaguing the minds of those two individuals. Estions like, who was powerful enough to defeat their lord, what is this, Jubii, or, what had happened to Rias? They were interrupted from their thoughts as an enormous pressure of energy enveloped the entirety of the underworld. Suddenly from the thin air itself, blue ethereal chains had appeared and wrapped themselves onto them, and it was draining their energy rapidly. The chains were also enveloping Rias. But unlike her two bodyguards, the chains were softly caressing her body, as if she was a child. Blue azure-like flames surrounded her, but it did not burn her. The chain's color had changed from blue to red as it continued enveloping her body. Her hair had suddenly changed from the color red to white. She suddenly opened her eyes. Her eyes had changed from blue-green to blood-red, and her pupils had turned into slits for a split second before changing to its original form. Her drastic transformation was only for a few minutes before her hair and eyes had changed to its original color. With this, she had now been reborn, stronger than ever. With Naruto. Well, I guess that's fine for now, said Naruto as he made a shooing motion to the black cat. I appreciate your help, Neko, but you should be going now. Sayonara, bid Naruto as he said his farewell to the cat while smiling until he could no longer sense the cat anymore. Now then, how long are you two gonna stay there and keep spying on me? He said loudly. I really don't like it when people invade my privacy, he continued. With a slight increase to his power, he had forced the two eavesdroppers to come out of hiding. As he yanked them out of their camouflaging spell, if he was honest, he really wanted to see their faces being shoved to the ground. Imagine his surprise as the two trespassers sprouted 12 pairs of wings and landed on the ground safely. Much to disappointment. Didn't thought that I would run into you two this early, Gabriel. Michael. Somewhere, a form of a man with white hair was seen killing a stray devil with 4 red tentacle-like appendages sprouting from his waist. Behind his was a small child. The child barely looked no older than 10 and was crying. He had stumbled upon the child and the stray devil out of curiosity. The devil's filthy hands were grabbing the child by his neck. It didn't take a genius to figure out what it was trying to do. If he could, he would try and comfort the child. But as he is now, covered in blood with his Kagun out, he doubt he could do that. Slowly, he tried to leave the area, but something had stopped him. A spear that was made from what appears obi light had embedded itself to the ground in front of him. A man with black hair, golden bangs and black goatee appeared from out of the shadows with a shit-eating grin on his face. It really irritated him for some reason. Yo, Kaneki. Azazel, said Kaneki as his Kagun pointed itself to Azazel, waving around menacingly. Now Kaneki, said Azazel teasingly. I haven't seen you in ages, and that's how you decide to call me. I'm honestly hurt, cried out Azazel with fake tears. If you came here to fight, then leave. I have no idea on what you're saying, said Azazel with a smirk on his face. But his body language was screaming for battle. I only wanted to ask you some questions, but if you wanted to do something like that. Continued Azazel as he summoned numerous light spears behind his. I have a certain trinket on me right now. And it looks like I found the perfect test subject to try it out on. While saying that, his face was still wearing that shit-eating grin. As soundlessly as he could, he manifested a purple-haired ghoul from out of the shadows to take the child to safety as he cracked his fingers. With Naruto, Gabriel and Michael. When did you notice us? Naruto asked Michael with a smile on his face. Ever since you were both in your mom's belly, replied Naruto, his eyes narrowing down dangerously. But we don't have mothers, stated Gabriel curiously as she tilted her head to the side. Both men, wisely ignoring the air-headed angel, continued on with their conversation. You know, you and Gabriel confronting me was a poorly made choice by you, Michael. There is a reason for this. Naruto. There were rumors going around that you were reawakened. After your little kidnapping, I just wanted to confirm my suspicions. And what of it? Said Naruto dangerously. Michael was really testing his patience here. Judging by the man's aura, Michael was ready to fight him at any time. No reason, but I only approached you to ask you some questions. I'm not interested. You have no choice, retorted Gabriel. As those words left her mouth, a laughter was heard. This laughter was not one out of joy, but one out of pure amusement. Michael could already sense the killing intent that was being released by Naruto. What she meant was, Michael couldn't finish his reasoning as chains erupted from the ground, restraining them. Its user was standing HT in the middle between him and Gabriel, kunai in hand. The kunai he had with him was inches away from their necks. A single mistake could cost them their lives. Have you forgotten what had happened when the three of you had challenged us in the past? Michael. Gabriel. If I recall correctly, Azazel was the one who had challenged me, you were the one who had challenged Kaneki, and Gabriel was the one who had challenged the third. Have you forgotten the outcome? I as well as Kaneki had left you and Azazel on the brink of death while the third merely left Gabriel with some broken bones. If it was not for your god interfering, then you as well as Azazel would have probably been dead by now. At the mention of their god, Gabriel wanted to say something but the thought disappeared from her mind. When her eyes had locked itself to Naruto's eyes for a few seconds. If it was back then at this time, I would probably say something like, I hope that the damage that was inflicted by me to you so-called god served a meaning in his death, but at this point in time, I really don't care. Gabriel wasn't able to finish her sentence as Naruto cut her off harshly. Try and threaten me again. And we'll see how this goes, said Naruto. The color of his eyes had changed from blue to red with slit-like pupils. And if both of you try and approach me again with the same reason, I will kill both of you. Somewhere. Again. I would rather avoid causing trouble, so I went easy on you. But should you come looking for a fight again for no good reason, I'll end you, threatened Cain. As he left the bloodied form of Azazel. Bones were seen poking out of Azazel's skin as well as a few large gash marks on his chest. This is what you call going easy, said Azazel weakly as he coughed up a pool of blood. He could feel his consciousness slipping away. He was thankful that he had sent out a team of fallen angels to retrieve him when an hour had passed. Now he only had to wait. At an unknown location. Naruto. Kaneki. Why have you called me out here? Kaneki, questioned Naruto curiously. We need to talk, answered Kaneki. And what is it? Before that, something had caught my attention when I tasted her blood. And that is, I viewed her memories. Apparently, the red-haired girl and her brother are not the only people to possess the power of destruction. I am aware of that. From the information that I had able to extract from her without killing her, there was a whole clan of them. I see. It matters not. In time, we will deal with them. But not right now, said Kaneki as he cracked his fingers. So, what is it that you really wanted to tell me? The end. Thanks for watching. Also remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.